You're listening to the Write Project podcast and radio program, a show about writing and modern Newfoundland author culture. This program is produced and recorded at CHMR FM 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador, and is aired on other great stations in the province and elsewhere in the country. It can also be heard online at www.chmr.ca. I'm your host, Matthew LeDrew. Welcome to a very special episode of the Write Project podcast. Today, we've got a host of authors on to answer one of the most frequent questions that's asked of any author. We're asking them, what's the best money you ever spent as a writer? And today to answer, we have on Rebecca North, author of Elliot and the Impossible Fish from Breakwater Books. What's the best money you ever spent as a writer? So like writing classes or XYZ, whatever. Basically money you spent that improved your writing or whatever.
I did, I'm a member of CanScape, which is a Canadian children's author society, and they have a mentorship program. So you can pay to have somebody, an established author, read over your work and give you suggestions. And so I did that, and I found I got a lot out of that. That was, I think, I've been to conferences where you sit around a table with other writers at the same level as you and talk about how you feel about each other's work, and there's usually a mentor at the table. But I felt like I got a lot more out of the one-on-one mentorship. It was great. So
sure. Yeah,
definitely glad I spent that money.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have on the line J.E. Solo. J.E. Solo, what is the best money you ever spent on writing or on your writing as a writer?
Definitely editor. Absolutely. Before Freak was ready to be submitted, I worked with a couple of top-notch editors, and that I, actually, wanted to work with pros and professionals and had no trouble paying for it. And then through House of Zolo, I've also worked with a fantastic editor. So that's definitely the best money ever spent. And I really highly recommend it to any writer to, go that extra mile in getting work prepared. And even though I'm doing editing now, I still would always want to work with an editor. It's worth the bread.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Colleen Helm from Utah. She is the writer of the Shelby Nichols Adventures series. Colleen Helm, what is the best money you ever spent as a writer on your writing career?
Oh, that's a hard one. There's been so much money I've spent. For sure, getting a really good computer that doesn't crash on me and that doesn't lose my work, and I have a backup system, because that has happened where I've lost everything I wrote one day, and I think that happens a lot. And so that has been a really important thing. And then I have to say, advertising dollars, being able to come up with advertising dollars makes a huge difference in getting the word out. So that's an important thing, but you do have to get to a point where you can do that.
That's fair.
And it's only been recently for me that I've had enough money to just pour quite a bit of it back into advertising. But I did hire a marketing company, because I don't know anything about Amazon ads. I've tried to learn. I'm just not that kind of person, where I know a lot of authors, they really get into the keywords and, they love that. And
I don't love it, but I try my best. But the second I've got the money to pay someone else to do it, it'll probably happen.
Yes, that's a key, I think, for if you're a serious author, and it helps to have a big backlist.
Which you do. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's good.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Chelsea B., author of London Calling and Christmas Mornings. What's the best money you ever spent as an author?
On my cover. 100%.
Okay.
I knew exactly what I wanted for a cover, but I knew I was not capable of it. And I knew who I wanted to do it, because I had a friend who was good at graphic design. And that's normally the number one comment when people, especially when I was self-published, they're like, doesn't look like a self-published book, it looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Heather Reilly. What is the best money you ever spent as a writer or on your writing?
Oh, man, I don't know.
That's okay.
I spend a lot of money on computer stuff.
Yeah, like the tech to make it seamless and not crash.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So that's probably where I've spent the most productive money. I spent an obscene amount of money on a book cover from a professional graphic artist for a book that I have not published yet.
Too many authors do that.
Yeah, well, for me, it's because I'm a graphic designer of my own right, and because I've done the covers for my novels so far, I wanted a different feel for a novel set completely out of that world.
Sure.
So I got somebody else to do it, but I like the cover, and it was very well done, but I'm not in love with it.
Oh.
And I'll never get that money back.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I still am on the fence whether I'm going to use it or not.
You could always try to edit it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But the guy was very professional, really great to work with. He changed a bunch of stuff for me, like facial expression, stuff like that. But I don't know whether... I don't know. It was just not exactly what I was thinking of.
Sure. That happens.
And that's hard, too, because, like, it's hard to give a person a few words and say, draw this, and it's obviously going to be their vision of it, not your vision of it, but there's got to be a meeting place.
Thing.
Yeah.
Like, when it came to, like, growing the business kind of thing.
Yeah.
The hardest thing, and advice that I took from, like, big business people, like Fortune 500 ones that I haven't met in real life, but, like, I saw in interviews, but they were like, always remember, when it's someone else doing the work for you, 80% is good enough.
Yeah.
You can shine it up, you know what I mean? Like, you can then put your touch on it and get it over. But just the fact that the one thing, like, once you get big, because when you're small, you think of all the things you could get. Like, oh, if only we had an on-staff editor. Oh my God, if only we had an accountant. If only we had someone on staff to do covers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once you get all those things, you realize the one thing that you cannot buy, no matter how big you get, is more hours in the day.
Oh my gosh, yes.
We are all limited by that. So, like, if someone else does something and gives me time, that's like 80% is fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's still 4.0 in university. Absolutely.
Yeah. I know. And for me, it's a very specific amount of time. Like I said, I do my writing in the morning, but
You said that in another episode, but sure.
Yeah. In my... Shut up. So I do my writing in the morning, but that's because that's when I'm most productive.
Yep.
So, like, I can sit there with my laptop open in front of me at night, and it'll take me 3 hours to pump out what I could do in a half an hour in the morning.
I like it when I can be productive in the morning, and I've managed to do that a few times in my life, but I'm lying when I say I am. I'm my most productive between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And I really hate that about myself because, like, there's a part of me that wants to, like, have a healthy sleep schedule and stuff like that. And my body just goes... When I write it in the morning, I get easily distracted. And it's like some part of my body goes, like, yeah, but, you know, watch that YouTube video it just occurred to you to watch because you've got lots of hours. When it's 10 p.m., my body goes, buckle down. It's almost time for sleep. Come on, man. And, like, I'm just...
And see, for me, it's the opposite because I have that window in the morning. Once
when
that
your
window's
kids aren't awake.
Right. Once that window's closed and it's time to go to work, then, like, that's it. I'm done for the day because I can't write more. Like, it's... Yeah.
That's fair. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have author Shannon Green. Shannon Green is a gifted author with a talent for the strange and has been recognized in both the genre community and the contemporary literary community for his pursuits. Thank you for joining us, Shannon.
Honestly, getting a library card.
I like that.
It was It was no money. It's access to countless volumes of research, both for how to write, what other people are getting published with. If you download the right app, you can even get audiobooks on your phone that you can take anywhere. So if you're doing something as simple as weeding the garden, you can put on a book and just always be reading. And to me, that is one of the better ways to learn how to write, is to see how other people write and just take in those story ideas, and then they go into the back of your brain and become your own story when it comes out. And so the best investment for any good writer, anyone who wants to be a good writer, I think, is a library card.
I agree.
Because free books forever.
Okay, I agree. Perfect. Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Matthew Daniels, frequent contributor to the From the Rock series, as well as the author of the upcoming novel, Diary of Knives. Matthew Daniels, what is the best money you ever spent as a writer or on your writing career?
Specifically, like paying a fee for a particular opportunity and that sort of thing?
Nope. Could be a laptop, could be your Xbox to unwind, anything.
Well, the big ones that come to mind is that when I was in my undergrad, I took some creative writing courses. There were 2 that were offered at the time, and they were seminar format, and I found those really helpful, not only for the actual engagement and feedback with the other students at the table, but also because the instructors, there was a different instructor each time, were really insightful and intelligent and had a lot of background that enabled them to speak to the realities of writing, both in terms of content and in terms of, for lack of a better word, business.
Sure.
And I also took that intro to novel writing course that you taught a while back, and that was really neat. Learned a lot from that one as well, especially in terms of structure, which is, really cool. And right now, actually, I recently acquired a tablet with one of these sort of booklet-shaped things so that you have a keyboard built into it.
Okay.
So I can fold it, like, you know what I mean, like a sort of notebook kind of scenario.
I call those Transformers,
and
but I think that brand died.
Transformers?
There was an actual brand of like the flip books that were actually called Transformers that could be like a tablet or a sandwich or a this or that. Like you could change them up. It was not related to the Robots in Disguise.
Which is mildly disappointing.
I know.
That would have been great. But yeah, that kind of scenario, because it's really good to have something like that that's handy for portable writing, but doesn't also have all of your computer needs, your personal data, your online banking stuff, and all your gaming and whatever else you've got going on, all packed into one computer. You don't really want to be taking that to the cafe, you know.
Yeah.
But if it's just this little tablet and all you've got on it is your writing, if it gets damaged or something, it's unfortunate, especially if it gets stolen, that you lose a couple of chapters of what you were writing. But you don't also want to have to be worried about somebody committing identity fraud on top of that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good answer.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Tracy Walden, who is from Trepassey, Newfoundland. She recently just put out a book through Breakwater Books called Send More Tourists. The last ones were delicious. Tracy, what is the best money you ever spent as a writer? The best thing you ever bought? Be it a desk, a writing class, a certain pen, whatever.
Oh, that's probably, I could give you a long list of books. I love to buy books. I'm so addicted I buy more than I read by far. I think maybe I can go recently is that I bought a subscription to Masterclass.
Okay.
I don't know if you know what Masterclass is.
I do. I've been debating getting one myself.
It is the best money I have ever spent on anything writing related in quite a long time. It's, it's like Neil Gaiman and Margaret Atwood and Judy Blume. And there's just this whole host of writers. And I've been working on a play recently, and I didn't know how to approach that. I've never written a script kind of before, so I was very confused, and David Mamet does this excellent masterclass about dramatic writing, and it was worth the money right there for that class. So I think that was one of those kind of, I'm not sure if I should do this situations, but I wanted to get some, kind of class time in without having to enroll at university or something like that. So my friends had recommended masterclass, and it's really brilliant.
I've heard. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been debating getting a subscription myself, but I've been hearing those same names a lot lately, and I'm like, yeah, I think it's time.
Yeah, it's really something phenomenal. I mean, you don't have to interact with the professors. I think you don't generally. You're just kind of watching videos, but these are the best people, that they're at the top of these worlds.
They are the best writers ever, and Dan Brown.
And Dan Brown. Poor Dan Brown. Well, he's got money, so he did something right.
Yes, yes.
He got some movies and some bestsellers, so
I'm such a jerk when it comes to Brown and Patterson. He's on there too, and I'm like,
he's
really?
on there too.
James Patterson, really? All right.
Well, I haven't read any of their stuff, but I suspect that they have some good tips all the same.
I read the first 5 books of Patterson's 2 series, just because I was the two main ones, just because I was like, this has become like a phenomenon. Like, he just churns these out and they sell millions. There has to be a reason. And I managed to book 5 of each series, and I was like, no, it doesn't work.
Well, we have things like 50 Shades of Grey and the Twilight series and stuff out there as examples of things that should not exist in the world. Not that I have no problem with 50 Shades of Grey as a premise, but the writing is...
Yeah, I hear ya. I hear ya. I could actually find more, as weird as this sounds, and it's really off topic, I can find more enjoyment from when I read 50 Shades from when I read Patterson's, because it's like watching a bad movie that's so bad it's good, and you start to enjoy it because of the mistakes. Patterson is just right down the middle, where it's like, you're not, interesting enough to be interesting, but you're also not insane enough to be fun in a bad way.
Yeah, it's like, the worst movie is always kind of fun to watch, because it's just so terrible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't get through either of those series.
Thank you very much. Next on the line, we have Kayla Krantz, who's calling in from Detroit. She's originally from Houston. She writes the Rituals of the Night series. Kayla Krantz, what is the best money that you ever spent on your writing career?
I would have to say covers, because they say don't judge a book by its cover, but people do. If your cover doesn't look good, people aren't going to look into it more than that, because they assume if your cover's not good, your book's not edited, and then it's not going to be readable.
Your covers are actually really nice. I was looking at them earlier, especially the Rise at Twilight books. Or no, that's not the... Yeah, that's the name of the series, right? Yeah, the Rise at Twilight.
The Rituals of the Night books.
Darn it! I knew it. I'm going to put a star by that. Yeah, the Rituals from the Night book covers are actually really... They look really nice. But you're right. I mean, people do judge books by their covers, because how else would you before you've read it? That's one of those sayings that's always kind of scratched my head and baffled me. I think it works as an allegory, like, don't judge a person by what they look like, or something like that. But taken literally, I don't think it actually makes sense.
Yeah, because I know that's the first thing I notice about books when I go to the bookstore. It's the cover. Yeah.
Although my favorite books have minimalist covers. Like, there's one that I saw at Chapters, which is like Canadian Barnes and Noble. It was just a pure white cover, no text, no nothing, and I was like, that's amazing, and I had to pick it up, even though there was nothing on it. Just because I was like, that takes guts.
Yeah, that in itself is a good cover, though, because nobody else does that.
That's true. I also can't remember the name of the book, but there was one book I picked up where the cover was just the first page of the book, like just text starting, and the back cover was just the last page of the book. Like, they just didn't waste any pages, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is a good idea.
It's weird because it sucks you right in. Like, if you've got a well-crafted first page, and I think it would only ever work on a bookshelf, not as an ebook, but it just kind of sucked me right in. I was like... And then I couldn't look at the back of the book. Like, usually that's the first thing you do. You pick up a book because you like the cover, you flip it over, and you look at the back. But I couldn't do that because that would have spoiled the end of the book. It's weird. Thank you very much. Next up, we have B.C. Laybolt, the Canadian independent author of the 10th Lunan Regiment series, a military sci-fi saga. He also writes an immersive dark fantasy series. His current titles include To Drown in Sand, Juris Lunans, To Drown in Ash, The Dog, Bone, and Upon a Wake of Flame. B.C. Laybolt, what is the best money you ever spent as a writer?
My editor.
I thought you were going to say that.
Holly M. Koth in Cincinnati, who was fantastic. And I literally had to scrounge money. I have a gun shell on my drawer, and I had to scrounge money out of that to send to her. And Grammarly. When I bought Grammarly, because before you send it off to the scrutinous eyeballs, and I have one guy who insists, especially on the fantasy, he insists on reading it, and he uses what we call the blood pen because he's absolutely merciless. Like, I'll have a copy of the story that I think is close to final draft, and it comes back covered in red ink, which we call pen blood.
Yeah.
Because he refuses to lock into my plan for the story. Right now, again, a quarter of that stuff. No, Chad, I'm going forward with what I wanted. But the other stuff makes me think of things that makes it 10 times better. So it's invaluable. But Grammarly, purchasing that enabled me to get as close to final draft as possible. And it picked up on stuff that even the editors were missing. So repetition of terms, word counts of the same word that appear throughout the document. Like, I'm really bad.
Oh, man, it catches that?
Oh, it does.
Wow,
so, for example, a guy called me, one of my best friends, and we are so close. We've been together since he was in junior high school. And he was reading To Drown in Ash. And he called me. He's like, I got to tell you something painful. And I'm like, hit me. I understand. I'm good. He's like, you are never allowed to use the word massive again. Ever.
That's
I'm like,
fair.
Why? And he said, because you literally have one paragraph that uses that 3 times, and you missed it. And I'm like, oh my God, no, because I thought the novel was, like, he received a hard copy. I thought it was finished. So I bought Grammarly and fed the whole document through that, and it found and fixed all that stuff for me. All I had to do was keep clicking on the mouse. The final edit under Grammarly took me maybe an hour. And what an invaluable tool that is.
Awesome.
Yeah, best money ever spent.
That sounds great. I might have to check that out. I've been kind of avoiding it a little bit, but I may have to actually check that out. Oh.
Yeah, it does a great job of what I call the final sanding. So, like, when you're doing woodwork and you run your hand along the grain, there's a splinter. Grammarly does that. It
if you knew me, you'd know that any woodworking analogies will be lost on me. Also, football analogies, hockey analogies, anything typically male, probably lost on me. Ninja Turtle analogies I will get immediately.
Oh, good to know. Good to know for future reference. That's awesome.
Thank you very much. On the line now we have Kelley Power, contributing author to Chillers from the Rock and What's Written in the Ladies. Kelley Power, what's the best money you ever spent as a writer on your writing? Can be anything from classes, technology, anything, as long as you spent money on it.
What comes to mind for me in recent times is the money I spent to enroll in the creative writing classes at MUN.
Oh, really?
And that's, kind of in the last 5 years of my life. I couldn't think back farther than that, but what I can say for sure is that they definitely kickstarted my new, more grounded, part-time gig approach that I have to my writing. It, the instructors are great. Ed Kavanaugh and Lisa Moore were the two classes that I took. And they just put you in I do well with structure and deadlines and the expectation of production. So putting myself in the class environment itself was really good. There were lots of very talented writers in those classes as well. So having an evening to go to with homework to do, to bring to the next class, for it to be discussed by people, take that feedback away, that was really invaluable to me because apparently my process does really well with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would, they cost money. They're university classes, so there's a price tag attached to it. But maybe generally speaking, classes that you can get where you have that obligation to produce, I find invaluable. Always money well invested.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I agree. Continuing education is always kind of, is always good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and how many people, side note, if you keep this in or you don't, how many people have done your novel writing course and actually completed their novels and had them published? Like, they're required to go, they're getting the guidance they need to work through the manuscript, but they're also coming each week having to prepare, having to advance, having to come out with something in the end. And that may not have happened without the structure of the class and the instruction they're getting and the motivation and the encouragement.
I take no credit, but we've gotten, we've only been doing them for a year and a half, 2 years, but we've gotten, I want to say there's 10 novels that have been published, not even just finished, but published that have come out of that class. So that's not nothing.
No, it's amazing. And the memorial courses, who this has tended to happen for, people I think who have done the entirety of done the creative writing diploma or certificate program. Yeah. But people who've gone through and they were doing a master's in something and their manuscript has ultimately ended up being the thing that they got published.
Yeah.
At the end. Heidi Wicks, I'm sure that was how she went through hers. Maybe Bridget Canning's, not the Greatest Hits of Wanda Jane's, but another one. I can't quite remember if that's true, but I know a number of people who've gone through that. Several of the stories that Terry Doyle has in his book, Dig, they were workshopped through that course.
The creative writing course at MUN, the entirety of my novel Jacoby Street was written through that. So I would take assignments and stuff like that and pick scenes that I was writing based on the assignment. Pick specific scenes from the novel, from the plan, and get feedback from all segments of the novel from different instructors and different peers and stuff like that. It was wonderful. I think it produced some of my best work.
Yeah, and there were people in a couple of the classes I did that were doing the same thing. They had a broader, a novel-length manuscript, and that's what they do, bring in different scenes for each class, and that's what they wanted to workshop through. So, yeah, it's very open and welcoming, and like I said, I can only speak to the classes I did myself, but they were great.
And, even if you, if you're thinking about the expense, not that MUN's expensive, or anything like that, but, you can't get a focus group for $200 or $300. If your book's done and you're looking for that, then even if you don't go in thinking I'm going to be a better writer as a result of this, you probably will. But even if you're going in and saying I'm got a captive audience of these 10 people to focus group my book, have at her.
Absolutely, and MUN has lowest tuition in Canada, with possibly the exception of Quebec, which is heavily subsidizing its education system as well. So, you're not paying through the teeth by any means, and your education costs are tax credits as well. So there's all those little benefits. Your courses are tax deductible. So, I know not everybody can do it, but whatever it is, if you can find some sort of structure like that, which forces you to deliver, I find that super helpful.
Absolutely. All right, well, thanks for coming on again. For all of you, we'll be here again next week at 4:30 Newfoundland time or online at chmr.ca. Please tune in and we'll talk more about writing culture in Newfoundland.